No Jumper, coolest podcast in the world. And today we got a Texas icon, a legend in the building, Twisted Black. How you feeling?
Man, great, man. Pleasure to feel good to be here. I want to take that suit back to Texas.
Oh, yeah. I got you, man. I'll send you one.
Yeah, I need that.
Oh, yeah. It's raining Nike Techs out here.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, everywhere you look. Yeah.
It can't be no knockoff, though. I can't be rocking a knockoff one.
Well, I just asked ChatGPT what the weather's like in Texas right now, and it said 92.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's light.
I am rocking this for sure.
Yeah, that's light. Yeah, this weather out here. This weather right here make you change your car.
Nah, facts.
Nah,
yeah.
for real.
Okay. Wait. How long you been free for?
It'll be 2 years, July the 13th.
Okay, for sure. And we're gonna get into the whole story, but how's life back on the outside? You feeling good?
Yeah, man. Just taking my time, getting back, acclimated to everything, and learning how to deal with so much change. Learn how to deal with everything that done changed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One step at a time.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
I look forward to hearing more about that. But okay, so for the people who don't know, where exactly did you grow up, and tell me a little bit about your upbringing?
Fort Worth, Texas. I was originally born in Detroit, right? But Fort Worth represented for sure. So Fort Worth, Texas, that's my home.
Okay, and you grew up with both parents, or?
Till I was 11.
Okay.
My dad passed when I was 11, but me and my mom left it when I was 2. So I had both of them, but not in a 2-parent household or nothing like that. I wish.
Was your dad, was he wrapped up in the streets, or what was he getting into?
Definitely. Yeah, he was a gangster out of Detroit.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
And you and him and your mom just couldn't get along at a certain point?
I think my mother, when I came along, she kind of, she wanted something different for me, and he was still heavy into what he was heavy into. And so she tried to get me away from it, taking me to Texas, so. But I don't know if it worked or not.
Were you surrounded by a lot of bad influences in the neighborhood and everything? Or
in Texas or Detroit?
In Texas, because you left Detroit at
when I was 2 years old,
yeah.
but I went back every year
okay.
until he died 11. My family, I got roots there.
Okay, but you're kind of seeing like these two alternate realities, different ways of life.
Definitely, I call it bi-coastal.
Right.
Yeah, see, because Detroit was always faster than Texas. You see what I'm saying? But then when Texas caught up, it was like warp speed. So I'm not gonna sit here and get one of those stories like, man, it was so bad, and I chose what was comfortable. So when we got to Texas, I found where it was rough at, which was like at my auntie's house on the south side. So that's where I went.
And do you think you got that influence from just being around your pops and just seeing him sort of have this fast-paced lifestyle that you were drawn to that?
1,000%. And then as you get older, you realize that when they say a product of your environment, man, where you grow up is what you're going to be comfortable with. If you grow up in jail, you're going to be comfortable with jail. That's just what it is.
Definitely. Okay, so you start spending time at your aunt's house. What was going on over there?
I mean, that's who told us about Texas. So my mother came down here because like I said, my old man, he was doing what he was doing. So we came down to Texas and stayed with my aunt in the beginning on Riverside. So you got to come down there so I can show you. You get the visual of this thing, man. Don't be scared.
Definitely. No, I got to tap in. But okay, but what was going on over there? Is that where you really started to kind of get into whatever was going on in terms of illicit behavior and whatnot?
No, hell no. I was a good kid.
Okay.
Yeah, hell no. I was a good kid all the way up to like the 6th when my daddy passed.
That kind of changed things for you?
Yeah, it did. And I really didn't know. But when you look back, as you get older and you look back on it, then I'm like, damn, that's when I started getting up, when my daddy passed, smoking weed and getting in trouble in school. So, just typical young guy coming up without his daddy.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay. And so when did you first, get into trouble being in that environment and everything? Did you have to deal with the consequences while you were still young?
I don't know. How do you know I got in trouble?
Well, it just sounds like, the 17 years in prison thing kind of seems like you might have got in trouble at some point.
Yeah, I did. But I just started going, I'm not really I got to start getting in trouble. Middle school, just like typical bad kid or misguided kid type shit. But yeah, what happened with me spending so much time in prison was, I was older then. I was way on up the line. But yeah, I've been to prison a few times.
Right.
You know, state prison. That was my first Fed beer.
If I had asked you when you were young, 16 or whatever, if I had asked you what you were trying to do with your life or what you thought life was going to be about for you, what would you have said?
At 16?
Yeah.
I would have said, at 16, I had 3 goals. I wanted a record deal.
Mm.
I wanted to be, I know this don't make sense. I wanted to be a drug dealer like my father. And I wanted a college diploma for my mother.
That's a tall order right there.
I did all of them though.
You did?
I did.
Okay, yeah.
I did all of them. So
Right. All
it
right.
just didn't happen but those were my 3 goals growing up. Like real talk, no cap.
So the rapping was a goal from very early on.
It just was like, I think my mother, like me being the only child, she was like, man, you got talent, you could do this, and then I'm like, well, you know what, I like it. I love music. Music is something I do for free. You know what I'm saying? That's how you know what your passion is, in my opinion.
Right. What were you what were your influences that you were listening to as a young guy?
Rap wise or just music?
Rap wise, but I guess music as well.
Man, shit, like Michael Jackson, Prince, you know what I'm saying? All you didn't have too many rappers to choose from then, so
Right.
Sugar Hill, Curtis Blow, Run DMC.
Right.
I've been in the game a minute.
But were you seeing people make, rap that was captivated in the city even from a young age in Texas, or did it take a while before Texas started to catch up?
Yeah, it took a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you familiar with Ghetto Boys, right?
Of course.
Those were the first ones that really.
I'm linking with Willie D soon, yeah.
I met good people.
Yeah.
So they were really, for me, the first people that really transcended the coast, because I'd be in Detroit on the porch going for the summer and hear people coming down the street playing mind playing tricks on me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, damn, they big time.
Right.
So yeah, probably though.
Okay, definitely. Okay, so you graduate high school?
I did not. I was locked up by 16.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Boys home.
What was that
Shit
case
like that.
about?
It was like a theft case or something, like 15, 16.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then got GED and then went on to college and, I got shot in 91 right here.
Yeah.
And so that kind of derailed a lot of shit, but I was in the street getting bricks going to community college.
Wow.
All at the same time. I didn't take rap seriously for real until I got shot like 91.
Okay, so I'm just trying to figure out the order of operations. So all throughout high school and everything, you're just in the streets. But what would you say your primary thing was? Was it doing robberies, or were you really trying to work your way up the ladder in terms of the drug game?
More of I was just at that time, because crack hadn't hit. At that time, probably just selling a little weed, fighting at parties, dancing, trying to rap, the same shit regular kids did, you know what I mean?
Did the world just seem so much more innocent when you look back
Absolutely.
at that time period?
And you know what, though? The reason why I try to make sure that I answer those questions transparently is because so many people try to make it like they was, and some have. But me, I'm not gonna be like, man, it was so bad. I had to do this and I had to do. Nah, I chose to do this and I chose to do that.
Right.
I was just a regular teenager, fighting and dressing and, listening to the music, all that shit.
It's just so crazy to picture a time period in which becoming, a person selling serious drugs was not on the table, that like nobody had done this yet at this point because it just didn't exist. Because like I feel like that's kind of the backup plan in a lot of people's heads at a certain point is like, shit, well, I guess if it comes down to it, I could just drive some bricks across the country or some shit like that. Like,
yeah,
I mean, not that it's a good idea, kids,
right.
But it's just kind of weird to think about how the world was when that wasn't an option and how much that changed everything because so many young people were able to make a lot of money off it.
And then when you look back and you see the contrast between when you were young and then crack.
Right.
Crack came and just slither bombed everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because you have the whole population that is relatively well off mentally. There's not anything that's really up mentally that bad besides alcohol, and then this shit comes out and it's just some percentage of people are just tweaked out losing their minds.
Well, nothing that was talked about because cocaine been up forever.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, they
But
just didn't
was that
talk-
popular? even?
Well, hell yeah, it was popular, but just,
Okay.
just to be honest, it was white drug.
Right.
You had to have the money.
So in the hood, though, this wasn't really a
Fuck
thing.
that. I mean, a little bit, but not shit. We ain't had no money, and wasn't nobody white.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So this was a white thing that was really motherfuckers up, but
Right.
you didn't hear about it till they started basing.
How old were you when you first started hearing about
I mean, I can't tell you that. You know how old I am then, Adam.
it?
But no, let's say about maybe 85.
Okay. And you were born in what year?
Oh, man, please.
I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
don't want
stop
to do
it.
to you.
Knock
We gotta
it
keep
off.
it a little vague here.
Man,
Yeah.
stop it. I was yesterday.
You were in high school
somewhere.
when it started to pop off. Okay.
Yeah, hell yeah. But
Got it.
but when it happened, you could see it. Like this shit, like okay, because in the beginning, you gotta keep in mind, everybody was getting money.
Right.
Motherfuckers really wasn't going to jail.
And it takes a while before you really start seeing how bad this drug is,
Oh yeah.
you know?
But once you do, because I was 15, 16, experimenting with different things, you know what I mean? But you just don't know until you get further up down the line. God damn, I could have been a dope fiend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And no offense to the dope fiend. I hope you get cool, but it could have happened.
No, I mean,
Because I was raised around the junkies and and I had hustle, so motherfuckers wanted to be around me, and before you know it, I'm experimenting with different drugs, and shit, I'm no saint.
So how'd you actually jump into the drug game, like in terms of making money from it?
Man, one of my RIP, one of my good friends, Wayne. When I got out of boys' home, I had been out for 33 days, working at 7-Eleven, right, trying to do the right thing, please mom, shit like that. But he was heavy in the game, so he brings me. He brings me to the some apartments called a Village. And when I get to the Village, he sit me down literally and give me a worker and give me like an ounce of crack. And when that happens, he let that worker bring the money back from selling it, and I was hooked. But he used me though because he knew I was a shooter. And so he needed me in the game with him. So that's where I got turned out on it.
Shout out to our sponsor, Everything 420. They're like the Amazon of smoking gear. They've got vapes, grinders, glass, edibles, flour, and even shrooms. The E420 app makes it super easy to browse and order, and shipping is always fast and discreet. They're always running deals too, so check out the app and use code NOJUMPER for extra money off.